Good afternoon. And today we have an honor of interviewing Teresa DeNike, the powers. She is social media influencer as well as sleep coach, as well as she actually experienced personally every step in dental sleep medicine, actually sleep medicine, I would call it a will. So today we're going to find out Teresa's story. And for our audience, thank you very much for your attention to our channel. And if you have a sleep troubles or sleep next to the snoring partner, please click the like and share button. If you're a medical professional, just like me and Teresa, please use our channel as a networking ground, because only together, only with collaboration, we can connect all the missing links of that disease of the evolution, sleep and breathing disorders. So good afternoon, Teresa.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me today.
And we are very honored to interview you because you are a national speaker, board certified in clinical sleep health practitioners, and you start with working with dental appliance company Somnomet, which we actively use. We are clients of Somnomet. I use a lot of appliance for many years. I helped change the lives of a lot of patients with Somnomet appliances. And after that, that's an amazing fact for me. What you have a certification as a sleep technician, so you actually know from your experience, from observing it, what patients go through at night with the sleep and breathing disorder. And then you get your certification as in a clinical sleep health. So now you help a lot of people who cannot sleep well in the using some CPAP machine or oral appliance. You have that inside view. In addition to that, you changing the life of people through social media. And that's, one of my favorite topics, really dear to my heart. And we find out what's actually, how difficult it is in the real life. And you also very active with remote patient monitoring and AI, incorporating AI in the clinical practice. So please share your story with us, how this whole circle happened.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. What an introduction. I really appreciate your kind words. So as you sort of mentioned, I've been in healthcare for about 15 years. Actually, most of the time was in various forms of sales and consulting. But the last several years have been specifically in sleep medicine. As you mentioned, I got my start in sleep in the dental sleep world, working for a manufacturer of oral appliances, Somnomed. And immediately I was hooked. I saw the incredible stories of these patients. I saw how hard the dentists work to help with sleep when I had never even knew that this existed. I had no idea dentists could help. And what I did see over and over again was that patients didn't know that dentists could help either while they were sitting right in front of them. I would speak to dentists, I would speak to physicians, and there was just a lot of mystery and a lot of fragmentation in the field. So I started looking at ways that I could help that. Over the years, I started training and educating myself. I earned my credential, a clinical credential, by the Board of Registered Polysomnographic Technologists, certification in clinical sleep health, which really means that I can not just understand the basics of sleep medicine, but help to explain to patients, which is really my main goal, is to coach them and collaborate and help them get to the professionals, the medical professionals that they need to get to. I do a lot online, as you know. I think that, especially in a COVID and a post-COVID world, people really get a ton of their information online, and they also want to communicate with others online. And I found that to be incredibly powerful. So that is where I am at, especially on Instagram. So thank you for that. Thanks for having me. And let's see what kind of questions you can get into.
And I would like to mention to our audience, you can find all information about Teresa underneath this interview, and please connect with her through the Instagram. And I personally really enjoy how artfully she put the advice with the elegance style. So it's visually really pleasant, and I think it's really powerful. So I would like to ask you, what's the most common complaints people bring to the sleep coach?
Mostly what I've seen is probably not a big surprise, but it's that by the time they come and find my Instagram page, or they reach out to me, or they reach out to any sleep coach, most of the time it's because they have tried multiple different tips and tricks and supplements to try to improve their sleeplessness or their snoring, which as professionals, we know that often it's not just lifestyle. It's not just something you can take a supplement for. It is usually a sleep disorder as well. So some of them even have a diagnosis, but they just don't truly understand it.
That's powerful. That's powerful to say to somebody who provides dental sleep medicine for 15 years. So please tell me, we on the other end of that spectrum. I'm the dental sleep medicine provider and a diplomat. But tell me, what people usually discuss about oral appliance therapy? I'm sure in your practice you have a lot of patients who have oral appliance therapy. What are they complaining about? And you actually saw the evolution. Start working with Somnomet, now appliance change. So tell us what patient concerned about, what we can get better.
That's a great question. As you know, over the years, oral appliances, even in the last 5 years, they've evolved so much to be more comfortable, smaller, more effective. So a lot of the times there's kind of this surprise that it fits comfortably and it's not this big bulky thing. Sometimes people, again, they'll try to do things on their own and they'll get these bulky Boil and Bites from CVS, and then they get their custom device and they're just amazed at how much better they feel. Unfortunately, on the other end of it is that a good amount of CPAP patients that I work with didn't know it was an option. And so when we're trying to work through getting them comfortable with CPAP, which is extremely efficacious when being used, but they're not really using it. And so I do give them the options. I tell them to talk to their doctor about oral appliance. And it's a shame that a lot of them didn't know it was an option to begin with.
What I want to bring, and I look at your website, and I highly recommend to my listeners to look at your website. I want to understand for us, for dental sleep medicine providers, how can we work with a sleep coach? I know a lot of us, maybe 50% of the state tried dental sleep medicine, but they find not gonna go, it's so difficult. But I think collaboration, what you do, can really change the game. Please tell us what would be the right flow? What would be the right steps to make dentists, to make a dentist become dental sleep medicine provider? That's one of the topic. I think, we have 20% of the people who suffer from sleep and breathing disorder and 87% undiagnosed. So they try, different things and get into the accident, sleepy and can't function through the day. But I think being in collaboration with somebody like you can really change the game. So tell us the step. How can it happen in reality?
I agree. And of course, as a sleep coach, even though I understand the clinical pathways, I can't personally diagnose or treat any patients. So I need to work with physicians and dentists. And I think that's so important. There are more and more sleep technologists, for example, RPSGT or respiratory therapists who have so much knowledge and they can share so much and help patients. And those are really, really great people to consider hiring in your practice or outsourcing. If you wanted to outsource to a company like mine that can help your patients, we see from my experience, my personal experience, and I know you know this, the people you work with, dental professionals in sleep and airway tend to spend exponentially more time with their patients than those patients have ever gotten with physicians. And it's incredible. It's so great for patient care, but unfortunately, all that time spent with one patient can't be spent on other patients. It's not scalable, and you can't really bill for that time either. So it's important to hire somebody in your practice or outsource it, use somebody remotely, use online courses, and obviously, of course, Sleep Better NYC has some of those programs as well.
Yeah, I highly recommend for people to check that. I like what you're offering, that help. But now, important thing, what you do on social media. Social media, it's a controversial topic for a lot of colleagues of mine, but I believe it's a powerful tool for sharing information and education. How do you believe social media can improve the situation when it comes to sleep treatment option, sleep education? What specific strategy and platform particularly effective for reaching and educating the audience?
I think it's such a good question, and it is a little bit controversial because unfortunately we do see a lot of unqualified people giving out tips and tricks, or there's just so much information on the internet. Some of it's wrong, some of it's outdated, some of it just doesn't really apply to an individual. And so it's difficult. So people turn to social media to find the opinion leaders, to find the professionals. And I think it's really, really powerful. I have found such an incredible community, not just among other providers, but in patient groups and, patients, especially sleep patients who have maybe struggled for a really long time, or have maybe faced the stigma thinking that like sleepiness is laziness or that sleep is for the weak. When they go to social media and they start to see other people who have these same issues and they start to realize there's all these options out there, I mean, that's so powerful. That's something you can't get just by going to one doctor's appointment. And that's what I've really has hooked me in the social media. And it's being able to engage with those people that is just really impactful.
I agree with you 100%. And I think community, we actually communal animals. And now in present world, it's really easy to become isolated. And I think, being on the social media can engage those connections that we actually have inside of us. Please tell me, you are very active on Instagram. And can you share your experience with the starting and maintaining your social media platform? What kind of content you think you resonate with the audience, and how it benefits your practice or your speaking engagements?
Definitely. So first and foremost, it's incredibly tedious. I do work with the social media manager, which is super helpful. But of course, because I am sharing some clinical information and because I really, really don't want to put anything out there that is not true or not applicable, I end up reviewing everything. And of course, I make my own videos. So even though I have help, it is very tedious. And so I do think that keeps people from doing it or getting started. But if you have a plan and you have help, it can be really, really helpful to your patients and to getting the word out there. I have found that, in full honesty, although I am growing every day on Instagram, I don't get a ton of clients from there. But it doesn't stop me because I know that they need the help, they need the education. People come to social media, unfortunately, for free information, and that is what I am giving them. So by doing so, I know that I'm helping people. I can also refer my patients as I'm talking to them to say, hey, I just posted something, a week ago, or go and check that video that I made, because it's directly relating to what we're talking about. But it's also helped me in my business in general to help with speaking engagements and group coaching, because they see me as being relevant in the social media world and actually knowing what I'm talking about. So it's really helped me in that way.
I really find that creates more trust. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Person in the comfort of your home, you feel comfortable in the environment, maybe on your phone, what you love so much, and seeing person over and over and over and over. You're right, it's such a powerful tool. But can you give advice to sleep therapists and healthcare providers like myself, looking to establish presence on social media and effectively engage with the target audience? What would be like a practical advice?
Absolutely. I would say don't do it alone. And I don't just mean have like a social media manager. I mean, collaborate with other people, like what we're doing right now. After we have this conversation, we will probably both post on Instagram and we'll tag each other. And that gives us access to each other's audience. I would recommend to be patient, because it takes time, and to honestly keep it simple. We think about this all the time. And so I think as practitioners, we might forget that other people don't really know all the things that we know. So I really find the most liked and commented posts I have are the simplest ones, because they're the most relatable. They are the most shareable. They're the ones that people are sending to their husbands and their friends, versus, although I do post a lot of educational content, the simplest ones are always the ones that get the most views. And it's just because that's what people know and what resonates with them. So you don't have to make it very complicated just to get started.
What the hottest topic you find that resonates with public the most?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of your question.
Topics what resonates with the most?
I think specifically just because of my background, things about CPAP. It's so common, but it's also so tricky. So CPAP tips and tricks really resonate. Funny things about sleeplessness, like one of my highest ranking reels is like my niece tumbling over, and it's like when you're, when you haven't slept for a few days, because again, it's so relatable. It's not really funny when someone has insomnia and they're exhausted, or if they have sleep deprivation from sleep apnea, but it's relatable. And so people really like those topics. They like to feel, again, like they're part of that community, and then maybe that's why they'll keep following and reach out for help, or get value from other things that I post.
I like that. It's such a sincere answer, for people to feel kindness, I think. I want to talk about your AI experience. It's such a fashionable topic now. Please tell me how what's your opinion about AI in sleep coaching, and what's the key application and benefits of AI helping individuals improve their sleep quality?
That is such a good question. You're right. It is such a trendy topic now. There's so much potential with AI, and there's so much like hesitancy or people getting a little nervous. From what I've seen in healthcare and specifically sleep, AI seems to be a tool that can really help physicians versus, try to replace them in any way or try to replace a sleep coach. Of course, there are apps and stuff out there, but that's not really my cup of tea. But, for example, AI services like SynthPop, which is a company I'm working with, they can transcribe meetings like the ones that we're having right now. And so rather than me looking down the whole time and taking notes and, clicking around and trying to figure out what I need to do, the AI can help to transcribe that. And it can also prompt me, because it is a smart technology. It doesn't just listen and write things down. It can give me recommendations. Again, it's not going to be diagnostic. It's not going to tell the patient what to do, but it can prompt me to remember something. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask this patient a question. So I think that's really, really helpful. AI is used in more complicated clinical situations, like analyzing PSGs and sleep tests, which I think also save clinicians a ton of time. Again, not replacing them by any means, but instead of spending, let's just say 30 minutes on a task, now you can spend 2 minutes on a task and can really focus more on the patient. You can give them the attention that they deserve for that relationship to build versus just doing all this documentation all the time.
Thank you. That's such a nice answer. I'm very, passionate about AI. But now I want to talk about, I also love that topic, to make appliance cool. People sometimes don't find it cool. And I think such a powerful tool of remote patient monitoring, like accountability. I know it's hard to connect being cool and accountability, but that's true. It is. So I know you use, or you big advocate of remote patient monitoring in various sleep areas, and how that monitoring evolve in context of sleep disorders. What do you see as a professional for the future development of that field? Like how you use it now and what you foresee for the future?
That's a great question. Yeah, I see remote patient monitoring, at least in the way that we use it, is very much just sleep coaching in the clinical setting. And the data that we're using are from medical devices, for example, CPAP machines, and eventually oral appliances. And what that allows us to do is to check data every single day, or technically it's about every other day with the patient. Of course, they have to consent it to let us see that data. And this is relatable to people who even if whether they're patients or not, if they're wearing a Fitbit, if they're wearing an Oura ring, maybe a CPAP isn't that sexy, but people actually like to see their data. And that is kind of cool. We see a lot of people who have Oura ring, for example, they join teams, they have communities online. It is cool to know. And then you can challenge yourself. You can give yourself a baseline. You can see how you improve. You can see if you're losing weight based on your sleep. You can see if you're feeling better based on your sleep. So I think in that way, the data can be really cool. And the monitoring of that with sleep coaches is, I really think, the way of the future. It's just really came about in the last few years for sleep. But in sleep, we spent so much time testing these patients and screening them, and then we give them a device. And what's really important is that they use that device and that they're comfortable on that device. So monitoring them and coaching them keeps them on that therapy that will save their lives, basically.
Thank you very much, Teresa. It was such a great talking to you, and you give such a kind, beautiful view on the dental sleep medicine or sleep medicine in general. Thank you.